Hey everyone, I'm Eric Singer, the founder of Magnetworks. This is Chris Meador, co-founder. Magnetworks is a word-of-mouth tool built for hiring and community. It's funny, this workforce development, definitely a theme here today. Every great product has a story. Ours has two, so I'm gonna let Chris start with his.
Hi, nice to meet everyone here today. And before I start, I actually want to look at Dr. Dennis and thank you. Thank you for helping me rediscover my story. So I'm a latchkey kid from the 80s, and like any good latchkey kid, my parents didn't know what to do with me, so they handed me to my grandmother. My grandmother wasn't like any other grandmother. See, my parents were young. My grandmother was young. She was in her mid-40s, just at the start of her business. She wound up becoming a high-end antique dealer, something that was kind of in vogue in the 80s. She dealt antique lace, quilts, runners, Victorian, Russian. If you ever want to talk about lace, I know way more than I should. And so she did exactly what she would do with a 5-year-old that she had to watch. She put me to work, and I worked the high-end antique circuit. I set up, I sold lace, I sold quilts. This face could sell thousands, and let me tell you. But the thing that I loved, and if you had a small business in the 80s, you know this, the credit card machine. I don't know if you remembered it. It was 3 pounds. It felt like 1,000. It was carbon. It was heavy. You'd go and you'd go, vroom, vroom, vroom. I was 5 and I loved it. But what I learned was responsibility. I learned if I got it wrong, we lost thousands of dollars. I learned that I had to be responsible. I learned that I had to make sure the credit card was put in the right position, otherwise the number wouldn't be read and I'd get in trouble. I learned all those things. So as I started learning this entrepreneurial skills, I thought about my future career. And as I went into it, I did exactly what you'd expect, and I went into corporate America. And as I was in corporate America, I was good at it. And I was good at it because I was always given the jobs that no one else wanted to do. The jobs that someone would say, hey, could you solve this? No, let's give it to Meador, let's see if he fails. And I was pretty successful. So fast forward to about 3 years ago, I was at a career crossroads. I professionally had made a pivot over to leadership development and people, and yet I was at a startup where I knew I was gonna get thrown off the train and the train was gonna go off the tracks. So I had to figure out what was next. But professionally, I'd moved to the Berkshires. It's kind of what you did during COVID, but more so, I had a family that was happy. I had a family that was rooted. You know, it's a strange experience when you always move for a job. I've lived all over this country. But it's a strange experience when you choose to want to live in a place and when you choose this is where you want to be. And so I realized that I had to fight for this community to live here, but I had to figure out what career I wanted to fight for. I'm going to pass over to Eric.
You know, Chris, this idea just popped in my head that if, every great startup needs to pivot in vintage lace, we should just go right into it if we have to. So my story, starts when I was 18 years old. Just 30 days before my parents dropped me off at my freshman dorm. And like any other kid getting ready for college, I had a routine physical. And a few days later, the doctor called and said, hey, something looks a little off with your labs, nothing to worry about, we just need to run a few more tests. Fast forward 2 weeks before move-in day, I'm sitting in the doctor's office and I heard, you have FSGS, focal segmental glomerular sclerosis, a very rare kidney disease. Your kidneys will fail, we just don't know when. So I did what any normal 18-year-old heading off to college with a rare degenerative kidney condition would do. I started building spreadsheets. And while I was figuring out dorm life, I was tracking every number and every lab I could get my hands on. All right, warning, incoming nephrology jargon, glomerular filtration rate, serum creatinine, albumin creatinine ratio, bun urine nitrogen, you name it. Why? Because I've always felt comfort with data. It gives you something to hold on to when things feel uncertain. And that mindset sat with me for my whole life. So I went in to build a career in workforce analytics, helping companies build predictive models that analyze trends in talent acquisition, turnover, employee engagement, and more. And you know what I did in that role? Well, what any normal person with failing kidneys that also happened to be leading a workforce analytics function would do, we built a predictive model for when my own kidneys would fail. The best part, I had all the data, years of it, and I loved it. And in March 2023, my kidneys failed. Not that anyone's asking, but our model plus minus 2 months margin of error, we nailed it. We absolutely nailed it. So next stop, transplant. And if you've ever been through that process, you know the first question they'll ask. Do you have anyone willing to donate? Talk about it like an awkward and difficult conversation to have with your friends and family. But I didn't just have one or two, I had 12. 12 people stepped forward willing to give me the most generous thing one human being can give another, part of themselves. I'll save the rest of the story for later, but I got the transplant from my cousin, and I'm 2 years post-transplant. So, hey. So what does any of this have to do with Magnetworks? It changed deeply in me how I think about community. It taught me that people genuinely want to help, you just have to give them a meaningful way to do it. And after a career in workforce analytics, you can see exactly where the job search is broken. It's inefficient, it's transactional, and it's isolating. But there's one bright spot. Referrals work, sharing works, and it's in the data. We see it, it's there all over the place. So I started asking myself, if 12 people were willing to spare an organ, I could probably convince a friend or two to share a job. If someone can share a kidney, you can share a job, and that's what led me to Magnetworks. Not just to fix a broken job search, but to prove what's possible when community becomes part of the process. When people show up, when they rally around you, like we're doing here right now in the Berkshires, when we take risks together, when we're given a reason to help, that is what Magnetworks is about, and that is why I'm here. We're a company with many stories, all built around one common theme, that community is not a noun, it's a verb.
And so suddenly I had an idea worth fighting for. We had an MVP of a product. What we didn't have is a go-to-market. And that's where the BIC came in. We got told repeatedly as we started developing a startup, you can't build in the Berkshires, you can't innovate in the Berkshires, there's no good ideas, there's no good people, you should go to Boston or New York City. I don't want to go to Boston or New York City, I want to be here. And joining the Berkshires, and more importantly, joining the BIC, what we learned very quickly is you can build in the Berkshires, you can scale, and more importantly, we are a culture of innovation. And we're a culture of collaboration. And it's that collaboration with Magnetworks that has allowed us to accelerate the way that we have. We figured out our go-to-market. Holy moly, we figured out our go-to-market. We suddenly have double-digit associations and chambers that we're signing on, more so every month. We have 100+ customers, many of which we've garnered in the last year. We have hundreds of job posts, and just as of yesterday, we finalized our pilot with the New York State Restaurant Association. These are real progress we made because of the aspiration and the inspiration that the BIC and all of you gave and allowed us to give. But the thing I'm really most proud of as we think about it, it's this community. Because you build in a community, you build together and you learn together. And it's this community of people, of learners and builders together that has proved to make it as possible. So thank you. Thank you for all we've done. And more importantly, thank you for the BIC for showing us that you can punch above your weight, because that's what we're all doing, and we're going to show everyone that we can make it. Thanks.